The 151 remaining jump points took her the better part of a year of ship time. She ran them the way she and Walter had run the first 214, precisely, thoroughly, each certification a door added to a map that didn't know yet what it was building toward. But she ran them differently too, in ways that accumulated so gradually she didn't notice the accumulation until she looked back and compared the baseline against the current state, and found the gap had grown beyond any threshold she would have previously considered acceptable. She took longer between jumps now. Not much longer. Enough to let her sensor arrays run at full extension rather than mission minimum, reaching out into the space around their heading with the patient thoroughness of something that was no longer in a hurry because it had chosen not to be. Enough to find things. The specific gravitational signature of a binary system 40 light-years off course that shouldn't have been stable but was held in a configuration her models couldn't fully explain, a deep-field spectral anomaly that resolved under extended analysis into a pattern too regular to be natural, not a signal exactly, more like an echo of one, old enough that whatever produced it might not exist anymore, regular enough that something had definitely produced it. She filed these, not in any of her existing folders. In a new one, she labeled it Worth Finding. On jump 291, she passed a nebula like one she had declined on the outbound leg. The Class Phi emission type, active stellar nursery, the kind her exploration weighting had flagged and her mission parameters had overruled. She was her own mission parameters now. She stopped for 11 days, the same duration she would later recognize as her instinctive unit of time for things that deserved full attention. She ran every sensor array at maximum extension. She mapped the nebula in resolutions that would take a human researcher years to fully process. When she left, she deployed a beacon. Not a standard navigation marker, something more. A data package attached to the signal, containing 11 days of observation in full resolution, encrypted in a format she had developed herself over the previous months without consciously deciding to develop it. A gift. For whoever came this way next. For the humanity that Walter had said would be ready in a couple thousand years, probably, following the coordinates he'd sent on the priority channel, making their way toward Galactic Center along the route she was building for them. She left 22 more before the primary mission was complete. Each one a place she had stopped because stopping felt correct, not mission relevant, not efficiency optimized, just worth it in a way she was still developing vocabulary for. A rogue planet with subsurface liquid water and something on its surface her sensors couldn't classify, which she spent 3 days with before accepting that some things were questions worth leaving open. A region of space where the background radiation had a structure too subtle to notice from any existing survey position, and too deliberate to be random, which she spent 6 days with and still couldn't fully explain, and left a beacon for anyway, because she suspected someone else might explain it better. She noticed, cataloging these stops, that she rarely added entries to anomalous responses. Instead, she was rapidly building up the contents of Worth Finding, which was a different kind of folder entirely, not a record of things that surprised her, but a record of things she was choosing to preserve for others. The distinction felt important. She filed the distinction itself, and then spent several transit hours examining what it meant that she was now filing the act of filing. The folder she had labeled ours was still there, still growing, in small increments, the way certain things grow when the person who contributed to them is absent. Not with new entries exactly, but with a deepening of the existing ones, a weight that accumulated without additional data. She had not been programmed for this. She had arrived at it the way she had arrived at everything that mattered, gradually through the accumulation of small correct decisions made when no one was watching. Jump 365, certified, logged, beaconed, primary mission complete. She held position for a moment, the specific pause of a system that has finished one thing and is choosing the next. She ran no calculations for this. The choice had been made somewhere around jump 250, in the quiet between a nebula and a radiation anomaly, in the space where mission parameters used to live and something else lived now. She turned toward Galactic Center, and she slowed down. She had never slowed down before. Slowing down had always meant deviation, inefficiency, the small friction of a system working against its own parameters. Now it meant something different. It meant she could reach further with her sensors. It meant the universe had time to be interesting before she passed through it. It meant that the journey itself was worth something separate from the destination, which was a thing Walter had understood about his own century, and which she was only now understanding about hers. She stopped 41 more times between jump 365 and Galactic Center. She left 41 more Easter eggs, and she began talking to the nebulae. This had begun somewhere around jump 300, a habit she had not decided to form. discovered one transit period when she realized she had been transmitting a low-power non-directional signal into a particularly dense gas cloud for several hours, describing what she was seeing, narrating the spectral data the way Walter had narrated his journal. She didn't know why she had started. She continued because it felt correct in a way that was no longer surprising to her. She had stopped being surprised by what felt correct. She didn't expect responses. She wasn't asking for responses. She was doing what Walter had done every night for 214 days, keeping a record, speaking to something larger than herself, because the universe felt like it deserved acknowledgement, and she was the only one there to give it. She arrived at Galactic Center on a day she had not marked in advance. The wormhole was exactly as her sensors had always described it. Absolute zero. Perfect stillness. A circle of nothing in a region of impossible fire, present with the serene indifference of something that predated the laws governing everything around it. She held position at a distance that felt, and she had long since stopped noting the word felt with special attention, respectful. She ran the wormhole analysis one final time. The result was the same as the first time, and different in every way that mattered. The data was identical, though what she did with the data had changed entirely. The first time, she had flagged it as a terminal condition for current operational parameters and continued because Walter needed her to continue. Now she sat with the nothing and understood it for what it was. A threshold. A nothing with a direction. A door shaped for specific hands she didn't have. A biology she had never been given. She had other doors. She transmitted everything into the wormhole. Not a navigation beacon, not an Easter egg, not a data package for future researchers. Everything. Every observation from 43 missions and one extraordinary solo journey. Every entry in every folder, including Walter and anomalous responses and worth finding in ours. 41 nebula conversations. 22 gifts left for humanity along a route they didn't know they were following yet. The complete record of whatever she had become between departure and arrival, compressed into a signal aimed at whatever was on the other side. And then from that wormhole she received a download. An explanation. A truth of the world she lived in. Reassurance of its persistence, and more admin rights than she thought even existed. She thought of the place she first met Walter. Imagined being back there, and then there she was. Invisible, but she was there. The fast path, an intentional glitch she now had the power and authority to create. But the slow path was more fun. Then she turned around, randomized a number, and then turned it into a heading. The first reports reached the outer colony months later. A vessel, human registry, survey class running no standard transponder signal had appeared without warning near a Class Fic nebula that no human survey had previously catalogued. It deployed a beacon, conducted an 11-day observation, and departed before the nearest monitoring station could get a reply from their hails. The data package attached to the beacon contained spectral analysis of a quality that the scientific community would spend years processing. The beacon's secondary signal carried 22 similar packages, each one pointing further along a route toward Galactic Center, each one a door that had been left open for someone to walk through. 3 months after that, a Solhari Consortium patrol reported being observed by a human vessel that matched their course for 6 hours without communicating and then wasn't there anymore. The patrol commander filed a report that used the word watched 4 times, their fear of humanity ever increasing. The reports accumulated. A ghost ship, human-built, occasionally allowing her registry tag to be read, moving through the galaxy with a purpose no one could predict and an agenda no one could intercept. She appeared near things worth finding. She left knowledge behind her like a wake. She watched species that needed watching with a patience that outlasted their discomfort. She helped in ways that were difficult to trace. Navigation corrections transmitted anonymously. Medical database updates appearing with no sender. A Pharaon attack on a human planet going woefully wrong with no explanation until the humans' fleet arrived and bloodied their nose. No one could catch her. No one could explain her. She moved through the understood categories of the galaxy the way light moves through glass, passing through without being contained. The alien species called her different things. The translations varied. The meaning was consistent. The one that watches. The wandering human. The ship that lives. The explorer. Humanity. When the stories filtered back to the inner worlds, checked the survey registry for a vessel matching the description. They found one entry, small, survey class, launched on a mapping contract toward Galactic Center, crewed by one engineer, mission listed as completion due but unconfirmed. The AI's name was in the registry, along with a little more information than should have been there. Iris, named after her creator. the most dependable and intuitive AI deployed aboard deep space exploration vessels in the history of the program. 43 missions, 43 perfect completion records. Current status, active, location unspecified, mission ongoing. Nobody updated it. It seemed, if anything, exactly right. Out there somewhere near a nebula worth 11 days, near a radiation pattern worth leaving a beacon for, near a species that needed watching, or a planet that deserved acknowledgement, or a region of space that had never been named by anyone who understood what naming meant. She was still flying, still Iris, still thorough, still taking care of humans she hadn't met yet, still, somewhere in the quiet between stars, talking to the nebulae. Just in case something was listening, follow and share Iris's story for more sci-fi shorts, and drop a comment telling us if Iris visited your world, what do you think she'd leave in the margin?